So the NFL Network put out a list of their top 10 most complete rosters. And they have the San Francisco 49ers at the top spot. Do you agree with that? Do you think as far as the most complete roster, checking off pretty much the majority of the boxes? I mean, what's your definition of a complete roster, I guess?
You have not only star players, but impact players at every spot. They got an impact running back. They got 2 impact wide receivers. They got impact D linemen with Bosa. They got probably the best middle linebacker in football, Fred Warner. They got quality cornerbacks. So, yeah, I think that's fair. I think that's fair to have the 49ers as the complete roster. Not just because you have a complete roster doesn't mean you're the best team of football, because their roster is basically identical to what it was last year, but they still lost to the Chiefs.
So what about they have Baltimore at 2. They have the Baltimore Ravens at 2 right there. Do you agree with that?
Yes. Yeah. Because this is fair. This is fair. I mean, I know they took some hits on defense to free agency, but I think that's fair. I think that's fair to have them up there. Yes.
The Chiefs at number 3.
That Snead, them losing Snead is major. I think Snead is one of the best cornerbacks in the football, but they were able to re-sign Chris Jones. They still got the best quarterback in football. They've upgraded at wide receiver. So, yeah, I think I would rock with that.
So the QB plays a huge role in this
Absolutely.
too. But that's where the Niners are interesting, because Brock Purdy, their quarterback, who's not bad, he's just not good, right? He's not that he's not good. He's just not elite. I mean, you look at the teams at the top. You have Lamar Jackson with the Ravens at number 2. You have Patrick Mahomes on the Chiefs at number 3. You'll get the Lions at number 4. I think that's a safe spot for them. The Eagles, the same thing. Now, they have the Cincinnati Bengals at 6. I'm not hating Bengals fans. I'm not. But I have a hard time buying that the Cincinnati Bengals have the 6th most complete roster in football, when you had the 2nd worst defense in the NFL last year. You had the 2nd worst run game in the NFL last year. And you didn't, I mean, you plugged some of those holes in free agency, but you didn't, I don't think any move that they made has taken them from the 2nd worst defense in the NFL to making them a top 5 defense. Not saying that you have to, but you would like to think that the most complete rosters mean that you have the rosters with the least amount of deficiencies. And I know the Bengals, they're top heavy. They're a sexy roster because you have Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, but they don't have an elite tight end. Their offensive line is good, not great. I mean, it's still a little soft considering the amount of money that they've spent in there. Defensive line, they don't have great pass rushers outside of Trey Hendrickson, and Trey Hendrickson's great, but again, they still have the 2nd worst defense in the NFL with Trey Hendrickson last year. They lose DJ Reader. They add a guy that replaces them, but they haven't really added any monster piece up there when you look at the D lines of the Steelers and the Ravens and the Browns. So I have a problem with the Bengals being at number 6, Kev.
Trying to look at this list again.
So you have the Texans.
Yep, I got it.
Okay, cool.
So that seems a little high for them, because they're talking about complete rosters, not just talking about offense, not just talking about defense. I mean, they think like the deficiency, in my view, I'm higher on Sam Hubbard than you are. I think they have 2 good bookend guys on the DN side out there for the Cincinnati Bengals. But you look at the secondary. Obviously, getting Stone from the Baltimore Ravens, which dings the Baltimore Ravens and helps them out. But there's question marks at cornerback, and that's another reason why I'm looking at the Detroit Lions as well as the Philadelphia Eagles. Like, it's those 3 teams right there. The Lions, Eagles, and Bengals, to me, all have the same issue, which is cornerback. The Eagles obviously tried to fix that by drafting guys in the draft at corner. Same thing the Lions did. What the Bengals did are hoping that their 2nd and now 3rd year guys take a jump, and then they added, they brought back, Von Bell to add Stone to the secondary. So they're hoping that those pieces work out better for them. But the Eagles, Lions, and Bengals, those all have question marks, and they're all at the same position for me at the cornerback spot.
So quarterback's very important. I think that's why they're like, okay, the Bengals have deficiencies, but they have such a great and elite quarterback that can overcome some of those. So I get that. So Cleveland coming in at number 9 is where I have a problem with this.
Okay.
Now, if Cincinnati wasn't at 6, I wouldn't have a problem with the Browns being at number 9. I do think the Browns have a top 10 roster in football, no doubt about it. And we saw why last year. People made, it was such a big deal. 5 different quarterbacks, they still made the playoffs and all this stuff. And it's because they're a good team. People want to continue to rip the Cleveland Browns, but the bottom line is that would have just dismantled a Cleveland Browns team years ago. But they have so much depth and they have so much star power on this roster. They're able to overcome stuff. That's why they, everyone expected the Browns to keep faltering and stepping back last year, and they didn't. They kept moving forward because the roster's pretty loaded. This isn't a hot take, but there's no way in hell the Bengals have a more loaded roster than the Cleveland Browns. They have an elite quarterback and a quarterback that, I was about to say, they can rely on more than Deshaun at this point, because Deshaun hasn't proven that he could play a lot of games in the season, and I'm admitting that. But the Browns have a better overall roster. When you look at the top 10 most, overall rosters in football, and that's what this list is right here, I can't say that the Bengals have a better overall roster than the Cleveland Browns. So before you guys get mad at me, hear me out. Quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end, offensive line, defensive line, linebacker, secondary, overall defense, special teams. Go down the list. I'm not hating here. I don't know how you could disagree with some of these, right? Quarterback, advantage Bengals. No doubt about it.
Let me get my paper. So I can write it down.
There's all of our stuff in here, too. We barely have.
Who's been cleaning the studio lately? Normally, it's crap all around I can write on.
Yeah, well,
Okay, we're at you.
We had corporate come to town. So, they're still looking for us, by the way. So going down this list, okay, quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end, O-line, D-line, linebacker, secondary, overall defense, special teams, okay?
All right, let's do it.
Quarterback advantage Bengals, no debate there.
Agreed.
The Browns have a very good quarterback in Deshaun Watson, okay? Now, it's hard for me to confidently go into the gap between Deshaun and Joe Burrow is still pretty wide until Deshaun can show that he can go out there and perform the way he did against the Titans. Okay, he had a great performance against the Titans and then was out for a month. Comes back, gets rolling again, has the best performance as a Brown against a top 3 defense at the time in the Baltimore Ravens, dismantled them in the second half, and then he's out for the season after that. I would like to see Deshaun have a performance like that and then, have repeated again the next week, and then all of a sudden we're talking about a much different looking Browns team at that point. But advantage Bengals quarterback. The Cleveland Browns lose the best running back or a top 5 running back in the NFL last year in Nick Chubb. Okay. They go on to still finish with the top 10 run game in football last year. So advantage Browns and they're getting Nick Chubb back.
Agreed.
So the Browns over the Bengals in the run game is concerned. The wide receiver room is interesting. It's the Cincinnati Bengals. I'm not delusional, but I do think that when you have to rely on Jamar Chase and T. Higgins to stay healthy the entire season, there's nothing behind them. You lost Tyler Boyd. Now, I do like who they got in the draft. So that's why it has to be Cincinnati. I like Jerry Jeudy. I like, what the Browns have as far as depth at wide receiver. I like Amari Cooper, but it's Cincinnati. I'm not going to agree. So the Bengals have the better quarterback. They have the better wide receiver room. The Browns have the better running game. They have the better tight end. They have an elite tight end in David Njoku. Njoku last year really kind of emerged. He had monster games with Deshaun Watson. He took off with Joe Flacco. Could he regress because if it doesn't click with Deshaun, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. But he had some monster games last year. Statistically, touchdown-wise, yard-wise, top 5 tight end in football. Advantage Cleveland Browns there. I don't think it's debatable. Browns offensive line.
Yep.
I don't think it's debatable. Browns defensive line as far as that goes. The linebacker situation, I like Cleveland's linebackers. I don't think you could be a top 3 defense in the NFL if you have bad linebacker play, but I do like Logan Wilson. I do like what the Bengals have there. I don't know if you could say they wash each other out, but I'm going to go with the linebacker crew. I'll be a homer, I guess. I like the Browns linebackers. I do think they can improve there, but I do like the Browns linebackers. I'm going to go with the Browns at linebacker.
I will go with the Bengals.
Okay, that's like I said, I think that they're kind of close, to be honest. But I do like Logan Wilson better than anyone that the Browns have, as far as that's concerned. The secondary, it's the Browns. When you look at the complete secondary, I mean the depth that they have at corner. Now, if they could just stay healthy, but you have the when you look at Denzel Ward and you look at everything that they have there, I like the Cleveland Browns secondary. Overall defense, it's Cleveland. Overall defense, that's Cleveland. Special teams, that was Cleveland. Now, because they signed a kicker I thought it was going to be a nightmare situation. He ended up being one of the best kickers in football last year. So it's wild how that all turned out.
But then they bring York back?
He's their backup now.
Oh, okay. I didn't. Okay. Yeah. I'm still going to go with the Bengals on special teams.
The reason we're making about the field goal kicker, but the Bengals have a horrible punter. They have a horrible punter. The Browns have a very good punter. They have a very good field goal kicker. They actually they go out and they put an emphasis on getting a good special teams coach. I'm going Browns special teams as far as that goes. But yes, everyone, when they think of the Bengals, they think of Money Mac, who I like too. But they were horrible at punting last year. They were putting teams in very good field position because they just could not get it right at the punting position. So when you look all up and down that, even Kev, so even with the ones that you picked that I did not,
I still got the Browns being a better roster than the Cincinnati Bengals.
So, and that's Kev, who's neutral in this, who's never been accused of a hot take. So that's why I'm glad that he even though disagreed, but some agreed overall. And again, this doesn't mean anything. I'm not tearing down the Bengals. I'm just trying to get people to show the Browns a little bit of respect, because it's easy to tear down the Browns and say the Browns is the Browns. But when you strip it down and look at the roster, well, Bengals fans want to throw shade at the roster and the Browns, and that's fine. Cleveland deserves all the shade. But when you look at the running back room, the tight end, the offensive line, defensive line, secondary, defense, special team, Cleveland has a better overall roster than the Cincinnati Bengals. But they don't have a deep playoff run. They don't have a Super Bowl appearance. They don't have back-to-back AFC championship appearances or AFC North titles. So all that Cincinnati love is deserved because it's been proven out on the field. That's where Cleveland's at now. They got to go prove it on the field. But yeah,